Hello, Canada. I'm Romana Didulo. As of February this year, 2021, I am the head of state and commander in chief of Canada, the Republic.
This is Romana Didulo. She's established herself in the past few years as a minor but utterly fascinating figure in the political world, even though she's never formally run for office. That's because Romana has proclaimed herself Queen of Canada, claiming that a secret cabal known as the White Hats have chosen her to lead humanity into a glorious new age. Romana believes these White Hats have been responsible for several behind-the-scenes power plays involving some of the world's most recognizable organizations.
The same group of people who have seized the assets of the fake royal family of the UK, installed by the central bankers 200 plus years ago.
Occasionally, Romana spices up her rhetoric with claims of being a, quote, extraterrestrial spiritual leader with access to secret, new age healing technology. Despite these utterly absurd assertions, Romana has cultivated a dedicated fellowship. One unsurprisingly made up of conspiracy theorists, the mentally unwell, and those who consider themselves downtrodden subjects of an unfair political system.
Okay,
They told you politely, it is the policy.
So, you've been served. You've got 7 days. You've been served.
So what is Romana Didulo's backstory? How did she get popular? And what continues to make her so compelling? Romana Didulo's past is something of a mystery. Born in the Philippines sometime around 1974, a self-written biography from her Canada First website reads, quote, born to a privileged life, modern equivalent of the royal family, the youngest of 2 children, Romana was raised speaking English, Latin, Spanish, Tagalog, and Hiligaynon, taught by her grandmother, a grade 1 school teacher. The same grandmother of hers who mounted strategic defense and offense and successfully blocked the Japanese from invading their regional stronghold during World War II. Growing up with the profound influence of her grandmother, father Romualdo Didulo Jr., a lawyer and engineer, and her mother Anna Didulo and her eldest auntie Winifreda Didulo Delphin, school principal, after she became orphaned at age 10 years old and again at age 11 years old. The website goes on to say that Romana first arrived in Vancouver on July 25, 1990. On the other hand, Vice magazine reports she arrived in America with her uncle at some point in her youth before moving to Canada. Though Romana's website bio includes sections on her volunteer work, education, and achievements, these appear to be unfinished. The body of the paragraphs is instead composed of the lorem ipsum placeholder text found in most web page creation tools. There's not much public information available about Romana's life before 2020. It's known that she fashioned herself as an enterprising businesswoman who began several startups in the early 2000s. Her endeavors in 2005 and 2006 led to creating Global Solutions Inc., a recruitment agency for the energy sector with offices located in Vancouver. Romana was even listed as a success story on a website for Towards Excellence Inc., a program catering towards promoting professional development. The article alluded to Romana's sense of social justice, stating that she encouraged employees to volunteer in their communities. More curiously, Romana's company was said to have assisted in settling immigrants from places like the Middle East and Latin America for the purposes of employment, which is bizarre in light of Romana's attitudes towards migrants throughout the 2020s. The article closed with a comment from Romana that would foreshadow her rise as a controversial political force decades later. Quote, focus, a clear vision, a sense of direction, and commitment will guarantee success no matter what challenges are encountered along the way. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the article has been scrubbed from the website, which looks otherwise unchanged from the mid-2000s. Romana started a blog on business-related topics in 2006. On her profile, she listed a handful of self-help books as her favorite, with 2 of these titles written by none other than real estate mogul and future president Donald Trump. As for her interests, Romana listed, quote, how to manifest abundance, and, quote, learning how my energies impact others. Romana lists several Canadian CEOs as her mentors, though when reached for comment, one of these individuals states they don't recall ever meeting her. Romana only wrote 5 articles through to 2007, with one espousing the value of power thinking over positive thinking. Though her interest in blogging seems to have petered out fairly quickly, Romana's goal at making it as an entrepreneur was far from over. But with each attempt, she would shed more of the legitimacy she tried to convey earlier in her career. Though it's unclear what happened to Global Solutions, Romana would try her luck with several more startups over the following decade. First, there was Didulo Holdings Inc., created at some point in 2012. This business was curiously registered in Delaware of all places, despite the office building's address still being listed as in British Columbia. Romana failed to pay taxes on this business though, and it dissolved just 4 years later. In 2013, Romana suddenly became concerned about the lack of bulletproof vests given to Canadian police dogs, starting a crowdfunding effort to raise $2 million to fix this. She made $26. 4 more businesses were started by Romana through 2015 to 2018, with all but one also dissolved for, again, failing to pay taxes. The services rendered by these businesses was unclear, with their names being the only clue anyone had as to their purpose. Despite Romana's idolization of the wealthy, however, her dreams of being rich never materialized. According to Vice, she had admitted during a live stream that she slept on the floor of a friend's nail salon at one point. But a reversal of fortune was just around the corner for Romana, who was about to discover the grift that would catapult her to national fame. Romana began courting attention online when she formed her own political party called Canada First in late 2020, though it wasn't until the following year that people took notice. It's thought that Romana's embracing of QAnon talking points brought her the most success, with notable leaders of the movement platforming her across Telegram and other social media websites. QAnon ideology often states that political elites of all stripes, such as the Clintons, Romneys, and so forth, will be arrested at an unspecified date in the future for crimes against humanity. A draining of the swamp, as Romana would put it. Many followers of Q employ far-reaching reasoning to confirm the different aspects of such a prediction, no matter how ridiculous these seem to non-believers. One such talking point adopted by Romana was that a deep state shadow government covering up these horrific crimes existed, one that could only be defeated by Q and his allies. With that in mind, the majority of Romana's followers believe she is on the side of Q and his underground network. Though Romana presented herself at first as the head of a new political party, this quickly changed. She began stylizing herself as Queen Romana in February 2021.
Hello Canada, I'm Romana Didulo, Head of State and Commander-in-Chief, Head of Government, Queen of Canada. Peace and prosperity, or perish.
Romana told her followers that Queen Elizabeth II was executed by sympathetic members of the US military, who granted Romana dominion over Canada. Romana also adapted elements of the sovereign citizen movement, specifically those that rejected the authority of their federal governments and followed only their own interpretations of the law. This, of course, also meant that any form of taxation was theft and therefore illegitimate. Within a few weeks, Romana saw a rapid rise in popularity, and by June 2021, she had a loyal fellowship organized on Telegram to do her bidding. Scores of the faithful sent out cease-and-desist letters to stores, public services, and government bodies urging them to defy mask mandates and vaccination requirements under the authority of Queen Romana.
Hi there. I just wonder if this detachment's been served the cease-and-desist order? Yeah, anything related to the authority of COVID? Okay, could I leave this for your chief?
I would have to talk to somebody.
Could I leave that with your chief? That's a cease and desist order. We have a new we have a new commander in chief.
Okay.
It's pretty self-explanatory. It's signed by we the people. So I'm going to report this back. Okay, sure.
Hold on to it?
Sure.
Okay. Do you have a mask or anything?
No, this is dealing with the mask cease and desist order.
Alrighty.
Okay.
I'll just give you 1 second.
Perfect.
You just want to sit down?
Sure, I can stand. That's fine. No worries. Pretty quiet place. Oh, look who it is. If it ain't the devils themselves. Goodness. Oh, black eyes. Oh, panda eyes there. Well, God doesn't look on people who harm children. You don't look on it very good. Alright, I'm just gonna leave this cease and desist order. It is legit. I just gonna just recommend that it gets complied with. It's recommended to give to your chief of police. I believe that's Chief Gilbert.
Yep.
If you could do that, that'd be great. So I'm just gonna.
Sir, that way I know who's.
If you need my name, you can get it through Romana. She's the new commander in chief. I'll be reporting back. So if she's Romana's the new chief commander
Of who?
of Canada.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Do you
Okay.
have like a driver's license or?
No, I don't. But if you need my information, you can get it through Romana because I'm going to report back to her. So if she's so inclined to give it to you, she will.
Can I get your first name?
I'm not going to give you my name. I'm going to leave that with you. Okay.
All right, sir. You have
All
a
right.
good day. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm just here on behalf of we the people. So it's just my name's irrelevant. And that there, folks, is what you call putting them on notice.
Some of Romana's followers were issued tickets for trespassing, and almost all were ignored or ridiculed. By the end of July 2021, Romana had created a wildly successful crowdfunding effort raising tens of thousands of dollars, with the proceeds apparently going towards wildfire victims in British Columbia. Though she insisted she would not be the benefactor, her lack of transparency motivated GoFundMe to freeze and later delete the campaign. Romana was also blocked from any further participation on the platform. Most remarkable was the size of specific donations, with one single backer offering $10,000 to Romana's cause. Romana continued building her following on Telegram, where she would post anti-government memes in the various decrees she made. The Daily Beast reported that her influence had spread to the United States by August 2021, with an indeterminate amount of Americans acknowledging Romana as their sovereign and following her decrees. Curiously, some of the Americans recognizing Romana's authority had been ex-members of the US military. Her community occasionally fractured when her own moderators questioned her methods, though dissent was swiftly and unequivocally removed. Rather than pivot towards a more accessible ideology, however, Romana only doubled down on the ludicrous claims she made, exhibiting a slavish devotion to pseudoscience. Romana's delusional claims were on full display in September 2021, when she was touting the wondrous healing effects of med beds. These devices were said to be capable of reversing aging and eliminating disease through something called quantum healing. Romana referred to non-believers as, quote, insufficiently stimulated minds, a label she repeatedly used in her videos to describe anyone not on her side. Romana's tenuous grasp of how inoculation works also spoke to her limited scientific knowledge. In her opinion, vaccines rewrote human DNA to slowly turn people into robots, something that could only be prevented by listening to certain frequencies at specific intervals during the day. Resultingly, Romana warned in November 2021 that her Kingdom of Canada military had been told to shoot any healthcare workers that offered the vaccine to minors, ordering followers to destroy shipments of the COVID vaccine. She also advocated for overthrowing the Canadian government by storming its federal buildings. Though the Royal Canadian Mounted Police called her in for questioning and a psychiatric evaluation, she was eventually released, with reporters noting that her rhetoric was toned down, at least for the time being. Romana also became obsessed with the symbolism of her Kingdom of Canada, including the quality of the new flag.
This video is going to quickly cover my expectations as far as the quality of print of the Kingdom of Canada's new flag. Okay, so I expect any printer printing our flag, the Kingdom of Canada's flag, to use only premium quality materials. Okay, notice how thick this is. I'm using this. This is the flag. The quality of the flag. This one right here is the Canada First flag. This is the one printed from the United States. I expect printers from Canada to use the same premium materials when printing our flag. I do not wish to see this garbage quality. I'm using this old corporation, Canada's corporation flag. You see, you can see my clothes there.
She left the flag's design up to an internet poll on her Telegram. Up until this point, Romana had yet to make a public appearance. Something that would change in the new year, however, as Romana found a new cause to tie herself to. In January 2022, a group of Canadians disgruntled about the government-mandated lockdowns and other public health measures traveled to the nation's capital, calling themselves the Freedom Convoy. This group planted themselves in downtown Ottawa for just over a month, with the truckers using their rigs to blare their horns as a means of protest. Never one to pass up a chance to chase clout, Romana immediately attached herself to the group and rallied a handful of her Telegram moderators to help her travel from British Columbia to Ottawa. When they arrived, they could see that Romana was living in squalor and resisted being called queen in public, fearing that her neighbors would learn about her online persona. The journey to Ottawa was made in a single car ride across Canada, a lengthy voyage to say the least.
Hello everyone, I am Queen Romana of Canada. You may not know of me, I am the one that saved the entire Canada from learning Chinese. Yay! I am not of any political affiliations that you have accused me of. I am the one that removed all of the NWO, your WEF, and your CCP agents and military from Canada.
Though she was greeted to a standing ovation, the crowd quickly turned on Romana when she lit a Canadian flag on fire, a questionable decision to make in front of a group of self-proclaimed patriots. Responding in kind on Telegram, Romana claimed they were being propped up by both the Chinese government and George Soros, before mocking the idea of truckers as a liberating force. She then berated her own staff and threatened them with execution over the bungled excursion. During the lead-up to Romana's journey to the Freedom Convoy, her and her supporters rented an RV to provide more cozy accommodations for the self-styled queen and her staff. Dressing up the vehicle with her newly printed flags and Kingdom of Canada coat of arms, Romana continued producing videos about world issues and even predicted an imminent World War III.
My fellow Canadians, I address you today as your Queen and Commander-in-Chief. We are on the eve of World War III. I ask that everyone come as one people and one nation, and to work with the United States and all of our allies around the world. God help us, and Godspeed.
Since the outset of Russia's invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022, Romana had been parroting Kremlin talking points about it being an operation to remove deep state operatives in the country, painting it as a benevolent mission of peacekeeping.
The provinces, eastern provinces of Ukraine, have declared their independence and supported by Russia and our NATO alliance. Russia has sent in their military personnel to ensure safety in eastern Ukraine that has been shelled at by the Ukrainian deep state government and is using the Ukrainian people as human shields, and to start again, desperately wanting to start World War III. That will not happen. Russia is a friend, not an enemy, and is liberating eastern Ukraine and will eventually be part of Russia. Thank you, God bless, and peace on earth.
Romana stated she was a, quote, Arcturian starseed whose spiritual contract requires preserving humankind, inserting herself as mediator between the United States and Russia. She previously called Vladimir Putin a personal friend who once gifted her a fancy watch. Behavioral scientist Dr. Christine Sarteski began tracking Romana's activities throughout the pandemic, reporting that after the convoy, her group started driving around Canada in a fleet of rented RVs flanked by her most diehard supporters. At one point, Romana's supporters rented an RV from an unsuspecting Manitoba family, lying about their destination and intentions for the vehicle. Following a conflict over the upkeep of the RV, Romana turned on the family and eventually left the vehicle trashed and deserted. Romana's Telegram followers then sought to raise money to buy their regent a new RV. The RV was to be the new headquarters for their, quote, mobile government after the last vehicle was repossessed during the Freedom Convoy. Apparently, the group spent a week in a hotel, with Romana instructing that an extra room be booked in case her friend Vladimir Putin showed up to join them. Thousands of dollars had poured in from followers of all financial positions, including an American who had been out of work for over 6 months. Romana's inconsistent stories and erratic behavior throughout her Canadian tour started raising doubts amongst her accompanying supporters. She continued telling stories about personally chasing Chinese communists out of secret underground tunnels throughout Canada, preventing a full-scale invasion. Vice reported that Romana would demand to hear Boney M's hit song Rasputin on loop for an hour every morning, and that she even demanded to play it exclusively during a 10-hour road trip. Many of the first batch of followers who had met and lived with her during the convoy had by then grown disillusioned with her. Daisy Dahl, who had been her right hand during the expedition, wrote this expose of her time with Romana. Quote, "She is totally delusional, and everything she says and does is exaggerated to feed her ego and fans a delusional false interpretation of her. Remember, we lived with her for 5 weeks, and after each person's first day, all 7 of us, and the one young man, were noticing things were off. We were her biggest fans and entire support team. Every one of us felt something was off, but we wanted to see it through so we could make it all happen." One ex-follower told Vice that Romana relied on her inner circle to do most everything for her, stating she once woke him at 4 a.m. to make coffee. Another implied that Romana saw her supporters as expendable, replacing her convoy team while in Newfoundland with a fresh crop of recruits after they refused to travel to the United States for her. But despite hemorrhaging support, Romana pressed on with even bolder demands for those who remained loyal, which would come at great personal cost. Keeping in line with her sovereign citizen beliefs, Romana had instructed followers to stop paying their utilities, mortgages, and other bills early in 2022. By May, this had caught up with many of them, who had found that she had perhaps not offered the best advice as they faced mounting financial difficulty. Nevertheless, those who complained were ignored or berated. Journalist Mac Lamoureux of Vice wrote that most of Romana's diehard followers were seniors, whose trust she had manipulated for her own benefit. Some of Romana's followers had attempted to assist their peers through write-in campaigns to utility companies, but these went unrecognized. Others were frustrated that their banks refused to comment on the dozens of Romana videos they had sent justifying their decisions. On August 14th, Romana instructed her followers to perform a citizen's arrest of the entire Peterborough Police Department. Although a group of the most diehard took up the call of action, they were hindered by the fact that the station's door was locked. The group waited around until a shift change, then began harassing the arriving officers. In the end, at least 6 of her followers were themselves arrested, including hardcore fan Frank Curtin, who led the assault on the police before being taken down. Though Romana was said to have been present to egg on her supporters, she apparently fled the scene when things started getting dicey. She later reiterated on her Twitter that while she was indeed there, it was only in an observer capacity, and despite her rallying cries to arrest the police, she was apparently disappointed in Frank, who she publicly chided. Of course, the Peterborough police were not impressed and asked the public to help identify the belligerents. The mayor of Peterborough herself later called Romana and her followers, quote, fuckwads, and told them to fuck off. The Guardian reported that Romana had over 60,000 followers online by the end of August 2022, a number which would drop over the coming months as her increasingly wild demands bled support. Romana managed to make an enemy of political lobbyist and consultant Roger Stone after using a cameo video to imply she had his personal backing.
Romana, this is Roger Stone. I know that you're on a mission to expose the deep state and the epic corruption in Canada under little Fidel. God bless you. I want you to know that many people across the globe appreciate what you're doing in the fight for freedom and liberty and all that is good. God bless you.
Despite their overlapping beliefs and the fact that Roger referred to her by name in the video, the political operative denied any knowledge of Romana's movement. He did concede it could have been one of hundreds of tailored video clips he had filmed for the Cameo platform. Apparently, a fake account set up in Roger's name had paraded the video around on Romana's Telegram, ostensibly for fundraising purposes. When Roger's lawyer came on to set the story straight, he was promptly banned and had his posts removed. Despite Roger's outrage, this particular episode seems to have blown over without much fallout. Romana has remained active on Telegram throughout early 2023 and has seemingly paused her Canadian national tour by corralling her fleet of RVs on the property of a supporter who offered her the land. She continues to post conspiracies about the Chinese Communist Party's plans for world domination through vaccines, along with reiterating her many decrees issued over the past few years. Romana's staff also post whenever she dines with international dignitaries, though of course these posts are never accompanied with photos of the purported events. On February 6th, 2023, Romana made headlines once again when she advocated for having her supporters shoot migrants coming into Canada. Though public reaction could be mostly summed up as an eye-rolling response, some reporters were concerned these calls to violence could whip up the least mentally sane Romana worshippers into actually carrying out such crimes. Interestingly, the hypocrisy of Romana herself having immigrated to Canada previously seems to have been lost on her and her remaining allies. In March 2023, Romana and friends began printing their own money, which would only be given to those who swore an oath of loyalty to her. Watching her sign the first bills to come off the press, some of her followers hoped they could pay off outstanding debts with the companies they owed because of her directives. Some even donated real money to help print the Kingdom of Canada cash. It's unknown what businesses would accept this as legal tender, but the answer is probably none. The tale of Romana Didulo and how she manages to keep courting followers leaves many questions unanswered. As is often the case with such personalities, it's unknown how much of her utterly absurd rhetoric she actually believes. Of course, Romana has already managed to alienate many of her past followers, especially those who questioned her or had their finances wiped out by her demands to stop paying their bills. Romana does not take kindly to disloyalty, of course, threatening to take traders on helicopter rides, quote, above a volcano or commercial crocodile farms. It will be interesting to see how this strategy of constantly turning on the few who willingly listen to her plays out in the long term. Whether she'll eventually fade into obscurity or successfully continue her grift for years to come, it's clear that for now at least, Romana has no intention of quietly riding off into the sunset.